Hello, everybody. All right, so welcome to the Mikestand. Hope everybody's having a good week. Of course, this is the last show we're going to broadcast this week, due to the fact that Thanksgiving holiday over the next couple of days here. Um, we will be back to full. We will be back in full next week, of course, the full 5 days. But with that, I hope everybody's ready to have a good Thanksgiving with their family. And tonight we got one article that we'll go over in Bleeding Full, but this time it's not the indie comic showcase. There is one that's up, but for for those who've been around a while, who know some of the backstory, the reason I'm not covering the indie comic showcase this week is that there's a particular individual there on there that I will not promote. For those who know the history, you know who you know who I'm talking about. You know what the issues are. Um, so I will not promote them, which is kind of. I know it's kind of I'm punishing the other two people who had nothing to do with it, but I just you know that individual, you know I let's just say I've seen a side of them that they they're not as nice as let's just say they're not as nice as everybody might want to think they are. So, anyways, but enough of that. So tonight, the one article we won't be covering from Bleeding Full, however, will be um, will be in regards to another release here as Bakshi and Frazetta's Fire and Ice universe is expanding the Tigre. We'll be looking at that article tonight, maybe in a little while here. Also, of course, the wrestling wrap up and this day in each history later on. Um, as always, guys, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream and seeing if we can get some more people in here get more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions the best of my ability. Let's see. So before we do get in the article, since it's going to only be one article, because I'll just kind of start talking here like I did last night. So as I've been talking about the last couple of days here, lately I've been watching a lot of the Golden Age cartoons. We talked quite a bit about like a number of the Golden Age voice actors: Mel Blanc, June Foray, B. Benaderet, Dawes Butler, Greg Stafford, a number of them. We talked quite a bit about. Um, I talked quite a bit about, and brought up some of the points of how even though they're known for a particular company, like for example, Mel Blanc is known for his time with Warner Brothers. They had worked with other companies. Dawes Butler become known for his work with Hanna Barbera as another example of that. And some of the things I pointed out to people were real interesting. When we talked about it. Now, one of the other things too on that front, one of the things I talked about for a long time, for throughout much of the 40s and 50s, well, actually from the 40s on, with maybe the exception of the 1 year that Jack Mercer enlisted in the Army and served in the U.S. Army, Jack Mercer, Jackson Beck, and Mae Quetzal were the regular voices of Popeye, Bluto, and Olive Oil, respectively. One of the other things I found kind of interesting about those three is they're all, in essence, like 2 years apart from each. In grand total, they're 4 years apart. The greatest length in time is 4 years between Mae Quetzal and Jackson Beck. But May Quetzal was born, I believe, in September of 1908. Jack Mercer, January of 1910, and then Jackson Beck, July of 1912. So they were all essentially 2 years apart from each other. Like Quetzal and Mercer were 2 years apart from each other. Mercer and Beck were like 2 years apart from each other. And then, of course, I just said Quetzal. And so they were all within 4 years of each other, basically. That was kind of, I found that kind of interesting. I know many people may not, but, and they would continue those roles, well into the 80s. I believe, May Quetzal lived to be 89 years young. I think Jack Mercer passed away in 1984, and then Jackson Beck passed away, I believe it was 2012 or something. Let's see. No, not 2012. I've even been early. I think, he passed away sometime in the 2000s. And Jackson Beck himself, as I mentioned last night, of course, aside from being one of the regular actors with Fleischer and later Famous Studios, he served as, the narrator on the Superman, the Fleischer Famous Studios Superman shorts. He would later serve as the narrator for both Filmation Superman as well as he'd serve as narrator for G.I. Joe as well. So, anyways, aside from the voice acting stuff, of course, as I've been watching a lot of these Golden Age classics and stuff like that, I'll also have the IMDb page opened up, and I'll be looking up the trivia and notes and all that, and a lot of things they talk about with the trivia and the notes is just how, particularly when you go back to the stuff from the 40s and the 50s, just how well detailed it is. You get into the 60s, you start getting into some of the more abstract aspects of art there, but like you go back to the 40s and 50s, and the attention to detail was just so great. That's one of the reasons why those cartoons. That's one of the reasons why those cartoons stand so well the test of time, because I'm sure many of us, whether as we were growing up, and even now, you can turn on MeTV or even Boomerang and see some of those classics. And just marvel that you feel like you'd almost. It's almost like you feel like you can just walk right through your TV and be there, right? Be in those scenes, maybe in a way you could interact with like Bugs and Elmer as their, or Tom and Jerry or Woody Woodpecker. And as I mentioned too, a lot of people may not have known this until, of course, I mentioned it last night, but Mel Blanc provided the voice of Woody Woodpecker for basically his first year, right? From his debut in the Andy Panda short Knock Knock to throughout like his first year of shorts. So, and they kept Mel Blanc's version of Woody's historic laugh well through the 40s until 48, when Walter Lantz had when they shut down for a year, and then ultimately Walter Lantz's wife Grace Stafford would take over the voice of Woody from the 50s on, 1950 on. So, but anyways, so you look at some of those, and even when you get into the 60s, you get into some of the more abstract stuff, but the detail on a lot of those animations was just so cool to watch. you know, you would feel like, you could very well be so engrossed in them that you'd feel like they were, um, like the song goes, "I'll take you there, I'll take you there." That's what it kind of feels like when you watch those cartoons. So, um, you know, um, and of course, I was also a big, like for me, I was also a big Hanna-Barbera fan growing up. So, of course, Dawes Butler, Don Messick, Frank Welker, um, a lot of those actors, and Mel Blanc and B. Bernadette in the '60s would go from Warner Brothers to, of course, Hanna-Barbera, as Mel Blanc would do, of course, Barney Rubble in the Flintstones, as well as providing the voice of Elroy Jetson, and I believe Henry Orbit too in the Jetsons. B. Bernadette, who would provide who was the first voice of Betty Rubble. So, but watching a lot of those cartoons growing up was always fun. Right? I'm sure everybody had a good time watching them, whether they be the Saturday morning cartoons or the syndicated cartoons you'd watch, when you came home from school, right? Turn on and you'd catch either the syndicate now in the 80s, of course, you did start seeing some first run syndicated cartoons like Transformers, GI Joe, some Filmation stuff with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and She-Ra, and Filmation's Ghostbusters, um, the Centurions. Rankin Bass got into the act with with Thundercats and Silverhawks. And I think they may have even been the ones doing the comic strip cartoons as well, with like Karate Cat, Tiger Sharks, among other things. Deke would get into the act. They'd do like Dennis the Menace, Heathcliff, and the Cadillac Cats. Oh yeah, so a lot of good stuff that we all kind of grew up on, right? Whether it was the compilation shows like the Tom and Jerry show, or Bugs Bunny or the Bugs Bunny show, the compilation shows, or the Woody Woodpecker show, to some of the later stuff. A lot of stuff that we all grew up on, right? Huh. And even the Harvey Toon stuff, the novel, famous studios, aside from, of course, doing, taking over the Fleischer Works for Popeye and Superman, they also they'd have the novel tunes they were doing, and eventually becoming, bringing in a lot of the Harvey characters like Casper the Friendly Ghost, Little Audrey, Baby Huey. I think before that, with novel tunes, they still had like Raggedy Ann and Andy, or Raggedy Ann, Hector, Hector of Hector and Catnip. In fact, one of the other novel tunes, a couple of novel tunes I was just recently watching, it came from I think they came from early 40s, were the Wee Men and Leprechaun's Gold, and those were some pretty fantastic cartoons too. Set in Ireland, and delving into, of course, the Leprechaun's legend, and even have some companies getting involved in making cartoons, as Chevrolet actually helped to co-produce a couple of with Jim Handy, co-produced a couple of Cinderella cartoons that were meant to act as advertisements. A coach for Cinderella, and Coach for Cinderella and a ride for Cinderella. Kind of fun. It's kind of funny how some literary works also get brought into cartoons a lot. The story of Cinderella, of course, I just mentioned two versions of it. Disney did their version, in the sometime in the 30s or 40s. I remember they even had probably the one Betty Boop color cartoon was Poor Cinderella, in which they had Betty in the role of Cinderella there. But in the two I mentioned earlier, that a coach for Cinderella and a ride for Cinderella. The idea was, instead of a fairy godmother magically turning a pumpkin into a carriage, you had these elves work together to build Cinderella a coach of a different kind, a car, right? And it just magically, they put the car together and then they put it in their modernizer, and then it would look like a 1930s Chevrolet coach that that Cinderella herself was driving around in. So that was pretty interesting thing to see. I mean, it's in the late 30s there they really did start. You did see more and more the transition going from the black. Some studios are still using a lot of black and white. A lot of the Popeye shorts were still black and white at that point, but by the late 30s, you were starting to see more and more companies go to color. Warner, Warner Brothers, I think more went color. I think, well, they had some color in the late 30s there, but yeah. So, and many companies prided themselves on the Technicolor process. A lot of companies were using that, Technicolor, Cinecolor, Polar Color, and these processes really made the cartoons look very, very good, of those. Now, of course, as we said, in the golden age there, prior to, let's say, 1948, most of the cartoons you'd see would be the short when you go to the movie theater, and before the feature presentation, of course, as people were coming in and stuff, they'd have they'd have the newsreels, they'd have some cartoons put in there, some travel reports, whether that kind of thing. It's kind of your catch-all before sitting there and going through watching the as they called them, the feature presentations, which made for going to the movies that much more interesting, made it more of an event for people. Again, still before the days of television, of course. Let's see now. Oh, now we're up to. All right, we're at 19 minutes here, so I think we'll go a couple minutes more, and then we'll go over the article. So again, I hope everybody's preparing to have a nice Thanksgiving with their families. This is normally the middle of the week, but as I said before, we're ending this week due to the fact we're ending tonight for this week due to the Thanksgiving holiday. But we'll be back, of course, on Sunday, with our panel, going over, some of the happenings and, open niche talk, as it were. And of course, don't forget, next Friday, December 1st, RJ Carter will be my co-host, and we'll be getting started on January 1940. But anyways, let's go ahead now that we're at the 20-minute mark here. So why don't we go ahead and get started here and and we'll get into the article I was going to go over for tonight. All right. All right, so here we go. All right, so Bakshi and Frazetta's Fire and Ice universe is expanding with Tigra. Article by Jameson Ashley, published today. All right, so here we go. Wow, nice looking girl there, isn't there? Isn't it? uh, Dynamite's collaboration with the families of Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta in expanding the world of stories of the iconic film Fire and Ice continues this February with a special release turning the spotlight to fan favorite Tigra. Now, Ralph Bakshi, if I remember correctly, I think Ralph Bakshi was also the guy who produced a lot of the Christmas specials in the late '60s, early '70s as well, if I remember correctly. But anyways, continuing on here. With the jaw-dropping art style of Frank Frazetta and the innovative, timeless animation stylings of Ralph Bakshi, the character of Tigra was an instant hit with moviegoers in 1983 when the original film released. In the smash hit new prequel comic book series from Eisner winning writer Bill Willingham, of Fable's fame, and Leonardo Manco, readers have seen new angles to her. I'm sure they have. If that one picture we just saw was any indication, right? Adding further dimensions, now Willingham is delivering a deluxe 40-page package for fans focused solely on her escapades. Let me see here. All right. And again, as always, guys, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Also, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That would be appreciated as well. So, anyways, continuing on with the article here. Special guest artist Gabrielle DiCaro joins Willingham on art for a stunning approach to this fantasy femme fatale. The Italian virtuoso is known for his unparalleled erotic works such as the Arcana of Maison Fleury um, series of graphic novels. His mastery of the female form in capturing both sensual beauty and power is perfect for Tigra, and right in line with the legacy established by Frazetta and Bakshi. Oh, there she is, right there. Kind of almost a come here, boy, look, right? uh, quite an attention getter there. In the world of Fire and Ice, the threat of the frozen North and its evil leaders, Juliana and her son Necron, is ever present. King Jarol rules over the rival citadel of Firekeep, and not only he needs not only warriors and weapons to fight this battle and stave off the annihilation of his kingdom. In this age, nothing is quite as strategically powerful as uh, betrothing your marriageable daughter to another ruler. Many kingdoms send their finest princes um, to compete for the attention and favor of the beautiful and headstrong Tigra. But what happens when the eligible princess is suddenly nowhere to be found? As a prelude to her fate in the film, fans will get to further see the adventurous side of this BA woman. Let's see what we have here. All right. The All-Star Creative Team is rounded out with two absolutely stunning covers by top talents. Dan Panosian took a moment from writing and doing covers for Savage Red Sonja to portray another gorgeous and fearsome woman of swords and sorcery. Then fans will be delighted by the return of Megan Hetrick, beloved for her unique style. Definitely a contention getter, you can say that. Say that much. Um, Whether one has read the previous chapters of Fire and Ice, released so far, or not, this is truly can't miss release, packed with a thrilling story and excellent artwork. Fire and Ice Tigra will be solicited in Diamond Comic Distributors December 2023 preview catalog. T. So next month, if you get that, you might want to be looking for that for this particular book. That is what they are basically saying there. Let's see where we're at on time here. Let's see. Well, I guess I can go take another peek around here to see if there are any other stories that may have came up since I made my choices earlier. If there might be something to. Hmm. All right, so basically. All right, so nothing new there, and we'll go back to Bleeding Fool one more time. Let's see. One more time. As I said, we're not going to do the Indie Comic Showcase this week. Just have my reasons for that. Around that. All right, so nothing really there anyway. So, let me see. Where are we at? Like, we're right at the 30-minute mark here. So, actually, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So I'll put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back now. So hopefully, all right. So as I said, go and do the wrestling wrap up here. Um, so first off, in some WWE news, of course. Some WWE news. So it looks like they may have signed. Possibly they've signed former NWA World Women's Champion Maddie Minkowski to a deal. As been reported, she's been at the training center, possibly to be making a debut of the WWE soon on NXT brand. So you'll be wanting to look out for her. AEW, of course, going into tonight's Dynamite, coming off of the fallout from this past weekend's Full Gear, will be starting their Continental Classic tonight. It's a tournament that's being set up. You have two brackets of six competitors each in and that what they're ultimately going to be doing, of course, is going to be establishing their own quote unquote Triple Crown belt, much like All Japan's Triple Crown or like the J Crown, and in which Eddie Kingston is putting, of course, as part of the tournament, putting up both his Ring of Honor World and New Japan Strong Open Weight titles up, and they're also going to establish a Continental title as well. So there'll be a Triple Crown there that will be recognized by, of course, Ring of Honor, AEW, and New Japan. Participants in the tournament in the Gold League, and three matches in the Gold League portion of the tournament happening tonight. Will include the Gold League will include John Moxley of the Blackpool Combat Club, Swerve Strickland, Rush, Mark Briscoe, Jay Lethal, and who was the last one in the Jay White. Jay White coming off of his defeat to MJF at Full Gear being part. And in the Blue League, which will start their tournament matches this Saturday on Saturday's Collision, include, of course, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli of the Blackpool Combat Club, Eddie Kingston, Brody King of the House of Black, Daniel Garcia, and I believe there was one more. I can't remember the last one off the top of my head here. So, Andrade El Idolo Andrade. So, those are your six hitters in the blue bracket. Now, for tonight's event, of course, they'll have the three Gold League tournament matches happening in it, in which you have Jay Lethal taking on Swerve Strickland, Rush taking on Jay White, and Mark Briscoe taking on John Moxley. Also happening on the match happening tonight as well, in a 6-man tag action, Angelo Parker, the former members of the Jericho Appreciation Society of Jake Hager, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker will be taking on AEW FTW champion Hook, Ring of Honor television champion Katsuyori Shibata, and AEW International champion Orange Cassidy, and Danhausen looks like he'll be making his return tonight. In a three-way match, you have Ruby Soho of the Outcast taking on Anna Jay and Sky Blue. So that's all that's happening on. And then, of course, already slated for this Saturday's Collision, 2 matches in the Blue League, in which Eddie Kingston will be taking on Brody King, and Claudio Castagnoli will be taking on Daniel Garcia, and for the Continental Classic. Of course, the Continental Classic is going to culminate in the final match, in the championship match at the World's End pay-per-view at the end of December 30th, in Long Island, New York. So, sounds like it's going to be this tournament set up more as a kind of a round-robin points tournament. First off, and I, as a traditionalist, I love this idea. No seconds at ringside. No managers, no second, nothing. You come out on your own, period. Get 3 points for a win, 0 points for a loss, and then each competitor gets 1 point each for a draw. That's basically how the tournament's going to be working here. And a lot of these guys are used to having other guys with them coming out. They won't be able, like Blackpool Combat Club won't be able to come out for each other. Not just that, but also Wheeler Yuta won't be able to come out. Jay Lethal won't be able to have his entourage of Sanjay Dutt and Jeff Jarrett and the rest of them out. Brody King will have to come out without the House of Black. Daniel Garcia will have to come out with the former members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. So, but basically everybody's going to have to, and even Andrade, even though he has CJ Perry now under contract, she can't even come out. Even licensed managers cannot come out. They want to really make sure that the focus is on wrestling in this tournament. It's going to be very interesting to watch as time goes on. And with that, also, let me just go over some quick results from last night's NWA Power, as I did watch that earlier today. In a turkey gobbler match, in which strikes were forbidden, and the loser would have to dress up as a turkey and gobble in public. CJ, who is the valet for the team known as Magic Inc. of the Barker, Cody James, and Magic Jake Dumas. Let's see. She beat Aaron Stevens in their match. Okay. And then Kenzie Page, defeated Big Mama, an independent wrestler from the Midwest looking to get some exposure to the NWA. And what was probably what I personally consider the best match of the night, showcase tag team match between four young talents. You had the team of Hunter James and Andre Thomas defeating the team of Jackson Drake and Andrew Lev in what proved to be a very, very good athletic showcase for these 4 young athletes. And then the main event saw the Southern Six trio of NWA National Champion Silas Thrillbilly Silas Mason, former NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Kerry Morton, and Alex Taylor, defeating the New Spectaculars 1.0 of Rolando and Rush Freeman and Tyler Midas. Much to, I think, Rush's chagrin in who they chose to replace Barry Pierce with. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up. So now, why don't we go ahead and we're going to we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and with today being Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! Let's see. 1993 and 2018. Okay. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 30 years ago today. As on this date, 30 years ago today, this date 30 years ago today, Jeff Jarrett wins a battle royal in Memphis for the vacant USWA unified title in Memphis. The title had been vacated a couple days prior, as former champ Randy Savage vacated it when USA temporarily ended their working agreement with the WWE, and then later in the night, of course, Buddy Landel would defeat Jeff Jarrett for the USWA title. So on this date, 30 years ago today in Memphis, Jeff Jarrett wins a battle royal to win the vacated USWA unified title, and then would later on drop it to Buddy Landel. Getting ready to move on to the next piece of Nietzsche history, as it were. Moving ahead to 2006, as on this date, 17 years ago today, back in 2006, the 845th issue of Action Comics went on sale on this date back in 2006. Sold for $2.99 with 32 pages. The part 2 of the Last Sun storyline, written by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, with art by Adam Kubert, lettering done by Rob Lee, and Dave Stewart doing the coloring. So on this date, 17 years ago today, 2006, the 845th issue of Action Comics went on sale. And finally, on this date, 5 years ago today, the animated series Space Racers would air its final first run episode on Universal Kids. On this date, 5 years ago today, Space Racers would air its final episode on Universal Kids. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. I know we're running a little short tonight, but that's okay. We've run long a few other nights. So again, we'll be back here on Sunday with our panel show. We'll be back to our full schedule next week. As you know, we're just taking a couple extra days off this week for Thanksgiving. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here on Sunday. Bye.